so again, I'm Meredith McClure. I'm a forest ecologist at KDO and also serve as the KSON coordinator. And I'm so excited for us to be kicking off our first quarterly meeting of January 2022 for the Klamath Siskiyou Oak Network. Here we go. So why oaks? Oak habitats are some of the most biodiverse habitats in Southern Oregon and Northern California. They host a huge diversity of oak-associated birds, many of which are of conservation concern, in addition to endemic plants and over 300 vertebrate species. Oaks are also important cultural resources for Indigenous peoples, for instance, providing acorns, a first food. These fire-adapted landscapes have a history of cultural burns, and the oak habitat mosaics provide fire resilience to the landscape. We have a gradient of oak ecosystem types in our region. Open oak savannas with grassy understories, oak chaparral with a more robust shrub layer of short shrub-like oak and other chaparral species, oak woodlands with a larger oak canopy cover. Then in oak conifer ecosystems, more conifers mix into the forest system and form the most close canopy of the oak systems. But many oak habitats are in decline. Oak woodlands have declined up to 33% in California and up to 95% in Oregon. The current oak vegetation displayed here in the Klamath-Siskiyou bioregion is much smaller than it was historically. The current oak vegetation is mapped by oak habitat types described in the last slide. The KSON partnership collaboratively addresses the unique oak restoration needs and challenges in our region. It was first established as a working group in 2011, then formalized with an MOU in 2014. Through this partnership, we're able to bring in many different organizations to collaborate on similar conservation goals using robust science, outreach, and adaptive management. This leads to positive outcomes both for ecosystem health and communities. KSON's governance documents include an MOU and a working agreement. MOU signatories have the option to serve on the steering committee, while the working agreement signatories include all network partners. These updated documents are currently under technical agency review. The KSON geography consists of 10 subbasins defining the conservation planning area in the Rogue and Klamath basins. These areas host some of the most extensive oak ecosystems remaining in the Western US. It also provides a climate refugium and connectivity between Oregon and California. These subbasins are subdivided into watersheds, within which the total area of each oak ecosystem was mapped. Here's the map of oak savanna habitat, where the darker areas have the largest habitat amount classified as oak savanna. This shows us both the relative amount and the connectivity of these habitats. Here's the same map for oak chaparral habitat, oak woodland, and finally, oak conifer. These maps can also be used at a decision-making scale most relevant to a land manager. To facilitate that use of the maps, we're developing a mapping tool with interactive downscaled maps through a Shiny app, ArcGIS Online, or something similar. The tool will characterize watersheds by habitat amounts, threats, and opportunities such as land ownership and zoning. Users will be able to select areas of interest to operate at multiple scales, identify priorities, and overlay data layers. General threats to these oak ecosystems include land conversion, indirect fire exclusion, conifer encroachment, commercial and industrial development, incompatible cattle grazing, solar farms, severe fire, and non-native grasses and forbs. We can manage these ecosystems to achieve more resilient oak systems. Thinning reduces conifer encroachment and competition. Slash treatment and reintroduction of controlled burns protects against high severity wildfires while simultaneously managing invasives, insect pests, and encroaching conifers. Seeding native grasses ensures habitat for fauna in the ecosystem and restores grasses that may have been outcompeted by invasive plants. Together, these actions promote understory and structural diversity that facilitates tribal usage and establishes more fire-resilient ecosystems. However, restoration methods like thinning and prescribed burning are not one-and-done treatments. They need to be repeated every few years, and we're dealing with large swaths of land. But there's insufficient funding for all of these monitoring and research needs. Much of the oak habitat in the Klamath-Siskiyou bioregion is on private land, and a lot of operational knowledge is either limited or region-specific. But this is why partnerships are so effective. By collaborating, we can tackle these knowledge gaps, leverage funds, and work on multiple ownerships. To address the challenge that so many oak ecosystems are on private land, we developed a guide for restoring oak habitats in Southern Oregon and Northern California, specifically for private landowners. The guide provides tools and background information to restore oak habitats and monitor changes in bird presence post-restoration. We are collaborating with the Umpqua Oak Partnership to develop a third version for distribution in 2023 with expanded geography into the Umpqua Basin and the inclusion of traditional ecological knowledge. Since 2011, KSON has leveraged over $7.5 million to accomplish restoration over 6,500 acres. At Table Rock's 1,320 acres have been restored from 2014 to 2021. 400 acres of BLM land and 700 acres of adjacent private lands. KSON was also awarded a DOI Partners in Conservation Award in 2012 for its collaborative conservation work. Using adaptive management practices, we can adjust our methods based on the success of a given restoration practice. We describe current and desired site conditions, then use indicators to measure these conditions. I'll discuss these methods more in depth in a later slide. There are a number of additional resources available to inform land management decisions. The Oak Land Manager's Guide is geared towards helping manage oak ecosystems for birds. It describes specific Northwest ecoregions, oak habitat types, aspects of these habitats such as acorns and cavities, in addition to oak-associated birds of conservation concern and bird associations with the oak habitat types. Using density and population estimates derived from point counts, it includes response predictions to restoration activities and habitat management. This allows land managers to manage oak habitats with specific objectives in mind and evaluate success based on species presence using birds as a focal species. Using the same data that informed the Oak Land Manager Guide, Oak Bird Pop is a shiny web application that provides bird population responses to management and restoration activities. Using birds as a focal species to understand ecosystem change, land managers can select current and desired to better understand the effects of management activities. The success of these restoration practices led us to developing our strategic action plan. We received funding from OWEB to inform our long-term goals, and we can use this SAP to increase the pace and scale of this work across the geography. There's a great companion summary that provides an overview available on our website. Land managers can apply the SAP to prioritize and implement conservation actions, either as a component of ongoing work such as timber and fuel, or as part of landscape scale restoration efforts. The SAP ranks threats as low, medium, or high for each of the 4 oak habitats. The top row summarizes the total threat level for each habitat and for each threat classification. For instance, oak woodland is highly threatened overall, the top threats being land conversion, indirect fire exclusion, and conifer encroachment. So the threats best addressed by restoration are fire exclusion and conifer encroachment. Oak woodland and oak conifer habitats are the habitats most threatened by these. The SAP identifies geographies with high amounts of oak woodland and oak conifer to target, which is also informed by climate resilience and departure data. Looking within these geographies, what are the best opportunities for restoration? We looked at areas that have high amounts of the target ecosystems. Here's that oak woodland map again. Opportunities for climate resilience, departure data, and land ownership to determine where to focus. We also look at threats and opportunities in priority areas to determine what organizations and agencies are well positioned to address these issues. The mapping tool we're developing will help to identify priority areas going forward. We use key ecological attributes in the first column, such as amount of habitat on landscape or plant community cover, to describe current and future desired conditions. Indicators in the second column are how we measure these conditions. Using the KEA indicators, we can rank current and future habitat conditions as poor, fair, or good, with an associated metric of success, such as moving oak savanna understory from less than 25% native plant cover to greater than 25%. This provides a quantitative measure of success to facilitate adaptive management. We monitor these outcomes at the site level, landscape level, and cultural level. To better monitor these outcomes, we're developing a KSON monitoring plan. We want this strategy to be streamlined to facilitate consistency throughout the KSON geography and compatible with partner monitoring plans. Implementing these restoration practices over the next 6 to 30 years will maintain and increase habitat acreages and improve plant community conditions. For example, an outcome at the landscape level will be to increase oak conifer habitat by 7%. So there's a lot of opportunity to tap into the KSON network to achieve restoration with easy to measure success. Given the wide scope of the SAP, there's also opportunity for the community to address additional threats outlined in the SAP. So you can get involved by emailing me at this address to join the listserv and receive KSON updates. You can also visit our website linked here, and you can keep attending our quarterly meetings. And the schedule is found right here on the slide.